Ah, dear reader, the thrills of Kingda, that colossal monument to human audacity and engineering prowess, a steel leviathan that has tamed the very forces of physics to bend to its will. Or so it seemed until I found myself facing the baffling edict of the theme park staff that I had indeed indulged in its wild embrace one too many times that day. In the pantheon of roller coasters, Kingda stands as Zeus does to his Olympian brethren, the tallest and perhaps the most thunderous of them all. One does not merely ride Kingda, one submits to its force, experiences it, and if you are a man of a certain disposition like myself, one may even become obsessed with it. But alas, the overseers of this modern marvel decided that a limit must be placed on ecstasy. They determined that I, having enjoyed the serpentine dance of this mechanical wonder, must be restrained from further indulgence. "What manner of nonsense is this?" I inquired, as the stern-faced attendant barred my path to another ascent. "Is there some obscure rule of which I am unaware, dictating the frequency with which a gentleman may tempt fate?" The attendant, unswayed by my entreaties, insisted that rules were rules and that there were other patrons to consider. But I, dear reader, was not in the mood for such pedestrian concerns. The situation brought to mind Kafka's bureaucracies, with the absurdity turned up to 11. Was this not a place of joy and abandonment of reason, where gravity is laughed at, and the sky is but a fleeting whisper above one's head? Had I stumbled into a satirical novel where joy is rationed and excitement doled out in carefully measured doses? The irony was not lost on me that an institution devoted to breaking the limits of human experience would so firmly impose its own. I began to ponder the philosophical implications of my predicament. Was this not a microcosm of our modern malaise? A society that builds monuments to freedom, creativity, and unbridled pleasure only to hamstring itself with arbitrary rules and needless limitations. I felt a strange camaraderie with Sisyphus, forever pushing his boulder, forever denied the satisfaction of completion. So there I stood, barred from entry, my very dreams of soaring through the sky with Kingda slipping through my fingers like the sand of time. The attendant, unyielding in her position, had summoned reinforcements, and the mechanical gates were guarded with an almost religious fervor. Frustration turned to determination. Surely reason could not be so easily thwarted by mere rules and regulations. Was not Kingda constructed to challenge the very laws of nature, and in doing so, invite those daring enough to defy convention? With a heart brimming with a rebellious spirit and a mind echoing the cries of Prometheus, I made my move. A dash towards the gates, a fleeting hope that I could slip through the cracks of bureaucracy and taste once again the wild ecstasy of Kingda's embrace. But alas, dear reader, the gods of theme parks are cruel and unyielding. I was met with a phalanx of staff, all determined to quash my quixotic quest. Down to the ground they forced me, holding my head in the very dirt from which this towering marvel had sprung. "Enough!" they cried, their voices a cacophony of rules and procedures, a mantra of limitation and restraint. I looked up, my view framed by the steel and concrete that had once promised unbridled joy, but now seemed a mocking testament to human folly. And there, in that ignominious position, I understood the tragic comedy of my situation. Like a character in a Dostoevsky novel, I was caught in a struggle between my desires and the absurdities of the world. My longing for transcendence was met with the cold reality of human limitations. They released me, their faces a mixture of stern authority and puzzled bemusement. Was I a madman, a fool? Perhaps I was both or neither. But what I was, without a doubt, was a man who had tasted something extraordinary and found the mundane world wanting. As I left that place of dreams and nightmares, Kingda's silhouette against the twilight sky, a haunting reminder of what might have been, I reflected on the nature of desire, constraint, and the human condition. We reach for the stars, only to find ourselves bound to the earth. We build monuments to our ambition, only to be restrained by our own creations. We aspire to the divine, only to be reminded of our mortality. And yet in that striving, in that eternal dance between the possible and the impossible, lies the very essence of humanity. In our dreams, our desires, our defiance of limitations, we glimpse something truly sublime. Kingda, you may have eluded me, but the fire you ignited cannot be so easily quenched. The sky is still there, and the stars still beckon. The journey continues, dear reader, and the road is endless. For every gate closed, a horizon opens, and the adventure is far from over.